Today's podcast is brought to you by...
The biggest retro gaming convention in Texas is back, with all new classic video game tournaments, live music, and special guests. Plus, tons of retro games and awesome video game merch. But with over 6,000 attendees, last year was a little cramped. In 2016, we've got over 45,000 square feet. That's twice the floor space. It's Classic Game Fest, July 30th and 31st at the Palmer Event Center in Austin, Texas. Check out more info at classicgamefest.com.
It's time to crack open a cold one and embrace the absurd. This is the Exploded Mini Show. Here we go.
Hey-o, what do you know? It is the Exploded Mini Show. I know it's not Serial's voice introducing the show. What's up with that? It is JC King, the brand new Exploded show. And you know me, I can't get away without doing an interview every now and then. I love chatting with people. And last week on the big Exploded show, we got into a pretty good, I wouldn't say a debate, but a pretty good discussion about these transgender bathroom laws, supposedly, that they call them in North Carolina. So what I thought would be good, because essentially you had two guys, straight, white, cisgender dudes, talking about the bathroom law. And I started thinking, it kind of reminds me of when dudes talk about abortion. Something's missing here, like somebody that knows something about what the fuck they're talking about. So I met in, I guess it was about a year ago in Austin when we podcasted live from Dragfest, who I knew at the time as Debbie Penetration. And she sent me a great email afterwards. She's like, hey, you ever want anybody to talk to you about any of this stuff? Please let me know. So this came up and I immediately thought of her. And on the line with us right now, she goes by a couple different names. I'll let her explain all that. But it is Debbie Penetration. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Yes, I have two main performance names. One is Sweet Gwendolyn. The other is Debbie Penetration. Sweet Gwendolyn is what I do a lot of my stuff under. It's just that when I started doing drag just has such a wonderful tradition of really sexy plays on words for the names that I wanted to do something in that spirit. So that's where I came up with Debbie Penetration.
Well, now also when you were explaining your performance to me, you really take on, so a lot of things that people don't know about, like gender. What I learned, this is where I learned it from, probably not the best place to learn it, but there's a show called Taboo on the National Geographic Channel.
Oh, yes, right. And I remember back in 2003 or 2004, they had a very good episode on transgender, and they probably had a few more since then.
Yeah, well, they talked about gender as a cultural identity, is what they talked about, not a binary thing the way we see it. And I was like, oh, holy shit, that's very interesting to see somebody who sees it differently than we do. So, so anyway, I guess where I was going with that is the whole thing that came up, this whole kerfuffle that happened. Oh, that's where I was going. Sorry, I lose track of myself sometimes. So what I was going to say is you, as your performer, it's not, even in the world of transgender, it's not binary always. Like you explain the way you perform, because it doesn't fit into any kind of category.
Right, it doesn't. Well, just to back up for a second, there's what people call trans spectrum. Transgender really is straight up, it tends to be a little more binary in terms of someone who was born in a female body but identifies as male, which is my case, or someone who's born with a male body but they identify as female. But there are lots of people who are, they identify as non-binary, really neither one or the other, somewhere in the middle, or agender being neither at all, or gender fluid, where some days they feel more male, other days they feel more female. And there's different shades of gray in the middle. But in my case, it's a little rare, but I mean, I've absolutely met other people like me. But I have always been very queer male identified. Since I was very young, I always just reacted very strongly to the gay men I encountered. Like I felt that was who I was. I definitely at an age before I could even understand it.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, I actually, this is very, very rare, although I said there are others, but I actually do female presenting drag, which is rare because the more typical thing would be for transgender women, being people who were assigned male when they were born but identify as women. They're more likely to be drag queens, and people in my situation are more likely to be drag kings. But I guess the way I've always felt about it was just that I would say probably 4 out of 5 drag queens are people who just, they identify as guys. You know, they're not transgender. They just see it as a really fun theatrical performance that they get to give, and that's how I feel about it. And my good friend Cupcake, who has given me permission in perpetuity to use her as an example, but she's exactly what I feel like I would have been had I been properly born a guy, you know, just someone who enjoys dressing up in makeup and lashes and dresses, and for the sole purpose of having a fun stage production that, you know, explores topics of gender and sexuality and all sorts of other areas, usually with a lot of humor. And then the only difference is Cupcake gets to take off her costume when she's done performing, whereas I'm stuck looking at least somewhat female, just going through life. And another thing I think a lot of people don't know about transgender people is not all transgender people have transitioned, and I'm certainly not gender conforming. If people come across me in person, I probably at a glance look somewhere pretty right in the middle, but I have my head shaved and stuff like that, and I definitely am never mistaken for being particularly girly girl.
Well, and the big thing is, as you explain it, it's quite obvious to people that everybody, even in that world, they still want to break everything down binary. And there's like 5, 6, there's, you know, as many colors as there are, there's different ways people feel and identify and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what else I was thinking as you're saying this? I was thinking about this, which is, so this is what they always talk about. When they talk about, so it's like what do they call it? Like a dog whistle when they say a word. But when they talk about like this transgender bathroom thing, they always refer to it as a guy in a dress going into a bathroom, and nobody ever really talks about people like you who are, you know, go the opposite way, born naturally female but identify as male. It almost seems to ignore people like you
totally
completely.
Erased from existence, and the irony here is that in Houston, it was the ad campaign was literally the No Men in the Women's Bathroom campaign. And what's ironic is the law, with the bathroom bill type laws mandate that women go to the that they mandate that men go to the women's restroom, because trans guys, I mean, they look like dudes. Yeah, I mean, if you've been on hormones, if you've transitioned, a lot of them are like these big muscle daddies and everything. They have beards, tattoos, everything. The law says that they are supposed to use the women's restroom. And I also agree that despite the fact that I believe the numbers are pretty 50-50 in terms of, the transgender half identify as male and half of transgender people identify as female, but yet people just completely tunnel vision focus in on transgender women. Just the fact that it goes the other way is totally off the radar.
Yeah, so, well, that's what I'm talking about when they have these bills and things like that. You're right. They only talk about it one way. And so my thing was, my question is to you this about the bills, because this is where I was coming at it from. It seems to me every now and then, now I'm very conspiracy theory leaning, and I tend to think anytime there's a weird national conversation that seems to be a non-issue, that it's like diverting from something that either the banking industry or the government or big companies don't want us talking about. So I know maybe I'm a fucking crazy person, but it seems to me that this thing came out of nowhere, and for like 24 hours, all we did was talk about who's going into what bathroom. And I'm like, is this even, is it really an issue, or is it like a made up issue to divide us, to divide the country? I don't know.
Well,
what do you think?
I can agree that people love to use diversionary tactics, so you don't know, like, what sort of, toxic garbage is being dumped into the ocean or who's embezzling what. And I completely cop to the fact that this may well be being used to distract, but there's a very legitimate thing, and I think that maybe since it doesn't affect you, it hasn't necessarily been on your radar as much, but this is actually a very logical progression for what's been going on. A lot of it is it's really the same people who were against gay marriage, and since they lost that with the Supreme Court decision last June, they're targeting transgender people.
Yeah.
I feel like at the moment, transgender rights is where gay rights was 10 years ago, but I think it is not going to take us nearly 10 years to get to where, to see the same sort of progress. And this has been building. Plus, I think actually Caitlyn Jenner coming out as transgender was very helpful, because while most Americans say that they do know someone who identifies as the L, the G, or the B, almost no one knows someone who identifies as transgender, because there's far, far, far fewer of us. And so once Bruce Jenner came out as Caitlyn Jenner, all of a sudden, so many people, they suddenly knew a transgender person, if you count knowing someone from the TV as knowing someone. But it was the first time they really had a face to it. And then also Laverne Cox was famously on the cover of Time magazine, I forget, like a little over a year and a half ago, with the transgender tipping point cover, and it's just become a point of national conversation. And I really think that the reason it's become the flashpoint that it is now really is the people who lost the gay marriage thing are just doubling down on the transgender thing now. And to me, the worst part is that they're really focusing on kids, because so many of this, they're picking on transgender kids who just have an insane suicide rate. I mean, it's I know at least for adults, it's about roughly half of all transgender adults have attempted suicide. And
wow.
It's really, and so the kids are always the most vulnerable, because especially if they don't have supportive parents, their parents can, try to cut them off from really everything that would be a supportive resource, like reaching out to people over the internet or finding a out youth group in their town or PFLAG or something like that. And so then, of all things, they target, middle school and high school transgender students with these locker room and bathroom restrictions. That's just really the worst to me. I wish they'd at least leave the kids alone. And not that the transgender adults are in great shape, but we're more prepared.
I'm trying to get a feel for this. So what you're saying is, and that's what my big question was, is this a thing where there's been issues that there is a reason to clarify it legally? Or
no.
Yeah. Because it seems to me like
not at all. It's honestly hate mongering. There's no reason. Transgender people have been using the bathroom from the beginning of time. It's just the thing we have to do. But it has a horrible effect on people. There are a lot of people who literally are too afraid to use the bathroom anywhere other than their house, and it affects being a student, ability to hold a job, and to a degree, I understand this, because what I didn't understand is who's looking so much at other people, and who's looking people so much in a public restroom. Like, I try not to make eye contact when I go to a public restroom. Right, and I don't even understand really what they think that the motive is, because I think that the thing it's hard to say, because some people seem to think that being transgender, they associate it with sexuality, and they think that if you're transgender, you're, to use their term, a pervert, and that you must be just waiting until sexually assault someone in a bathroom. Then the other half seems to think that it's more of those transgender people may need to use the bathroom, but what if some straight man wants to put on a dress and lurk in a women's bathroom and attack women there? And the problem with that is that men have been sexually assaulting women in women's bathrooms for a very long time, and none of them bother to put on a dress to do it.
Yeah, well, by the way, being a female is dangerous as is. Just you're surrounded all the time. You have to worry about a lot of things. And sexual predators are sexual predators. It's going to happen. I don't understand, personally, and it's not okay, this might be TMI, but we're having the conversation. I am like very much a prude, like naturally. It's my instinct. I'm kind of a prudish person. I am very not comfortable in any bathroom setting where there are other people around me. So I try to find private places to go to the bathroom myself. And I don't care if it's men's, women's, anything's bathroom. I just want to go somewhere where there's not other people. And I've been in situations where I was like at a Cece's Pizza one time with my daughter. They only had a men's restroom. They only had a female restroom. Now, there is this weird double standard where if, for example, it was my sister with her son, it seems more acceptable to take her young son into a women's bathroom. But when you're a dad with your daughter and you take your daughter into a men's bathroom, something just seems and feels weird about it. And they're nastier. They're not as kept up as well. It's like a whole thing. And I was just pleased if only we had a female, not a female, a family. I just am an advocate of the family.
Gender-neutral unisex thing, right?
Is that what so that the thing is, so that's what I was saying. When they say gender-neutral bathroom, what I'm trying to understand, are they saying, because that was the big target, everybody's like, I saw on Facebook, somebody was cutting their cards up to Target because Target said something about gender-neutral bathroom. I told my wife, I said, I don't know what that means. Does that mean like a 50 stalls where we all go in together? Or does
it's just like a one stall. I mean, I think a stall is just like you walk in, there's one toilet in the room. And those are also really handy for disabled people who may need some assistance to use the bathroom. Also great for exactly the situation that you are describing. There are many fathers who feel deeply uncomfortable taking their young daughters into the men's room. It's great for non-gender conforming people as well. And actually, that's another thing that's worth mentioning just regarding these bathroom laws. They don't just affect transgender people. It gets broader and broader. There's certainly it affects many queer people or very gender nonconforming. And there's actually a video on. Actually, I think it's on Countercurrent News' Facebook site. It was posted on April 21st, if anyone wants to watch it. There's a lesbian being rather roughly thrown out of a woman's bathroom.
So I've heard about this. I've heard that honestly, forget the idea of bathroom laws or not bathroom laws. I've heard that it can actually be an issue for women who just look like lesbians who go into, what do you call it, where you kind of have is it genderqueer, where you have the look of a male, like you keep your hair short and you wear...
Well, genderqueer is just another step on the whole trans spectrum, but I think gender nonconforming is the term you're looking for, or even masculine features.
And they go into a women's bathroom, and then the whole, like the whether it's, I've even heard like Office, like you're a teacher and you go into the teacher's women's bathroom and all the other teachers get uncomfortable and have a whole issue with it. And I go, what the fuck is this? Like, why do we care so much about who's in the bathrooms?
Then I should also say it's not even just like queer people. And I do want to say that it's not just lesbians, it's also feminine men have problems too, but it's not just queer people, because there was actually this article, I'm trying to think, like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't remember the town anymore, but I think it was just like some really tiny town, and there was a city councilman who was all hopped up on the trans issue, and there was a woman who was just a regular, I'm guessing, postmenopausal, older straight woman who was using the bathroom at this restaurant, and he called her out on it, saying that like she didn't have the right to be there, and unlike her, he could pull down his pants and prove his gender. And it's just like,
my God,
honestly, no one is safe.
Well, I don't understand it at all, because like when you think about that, like who is gonna take it to its logical extension? Who's gonna police the bathrooms? Okay, if you have a bathroom law. And then what does happen, because it happens, there's a reason Nair exists in the world.
I actually know a bearded lady, and she is female, but she has a pituitary issue, and if she doesn't shave, she grows a full beard. And, and also, I might add that another thing these laws are so ignorant about are intersex people, because there are people who are born with neither straightforward male or female genitalia. And for example, I don't know if your listeners would know this, but all parts of your reproductive system, their male and female parts are analogous to each other. So just like testes and ovaries they start out as the same thing in a fetus. Like a a clitoris is similar to a penis. So if you are born with an enlarged clitoris, it looks the same thing as a small penis. And so you get people, and there's all sorts, and like the labia is the same thing as the scrotal tissue, and it depends on like how stringent your criteria is, but it's at least 1 in 10,000 people are born with that, and depending on what you consider to be an intersex condition, it's actually as much as 1 in 100 people. And I might add, there are hermaphrodites, and I actually have a hermaphrodite friend, and that is someone who is literally born with both a penis and a vagina, and that's very uncommon. But there are people in the world, so which bathroom are they supposed to use under this law? And I think more than anything, that will be the law's downfall, because however much you want to argue about gender identity and, what defines gender, you can't argue with someone who is born with both a penis and a vagina. What bathroom are they supposed to use?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And we were asking, I don't know when, like, I consider myself more like libertarian leaning, which means like really my true belief, I think this is like the American belief, is you do you, I do me. And fuck it, let's not get in each other's business. Like I don't get the idea of why everyone. It's so interesting to me, especially in North Carolina. Right now, it's a political season. It's an election year, so I think that in terms of Republicans, Democrats, and liberals and conservatives, and I don't like to put anybody in a box. I feel like if you're in a box, you're like, hey, let's think. Like, don't put yourself in a box. Think outside the box. But the thing is, like, supposedly small government conservatives are the ones advocating essentially a nanny state law that literally wants to get involved in your bathroom. Like, what the hell is, if that's not big government, I don't know what is.
All the talk about smaller government until they want to start regulating people's personal lives.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Just let people be, because I really do think if you just let people be people, I don't think this would be as, maybe occasionally you would have issues and you would deal with them as they come, case by case basis. But I don't think you have to have like some kind of giant, we don't have to have this giant national bathroom conversation. The conversation should be mind your own fucking business and stop getting involved in your neighbor's shit. I think. I don't know.
Because if you know what kind of genitals person in the stall next to you has, then you're the one who's invading someone's privacy.
Well, that's what I said. I was thinking about it. I said, how did they even know if it was are they looking under the stall? Because if they're looking under the stall, that's creepy. I mean, what's going on?
And I think also what a lot of people don't realize is that transgender people really usually want the maximum amount of privacy. It's not, you know what I mean? They don't want to change clothes in the locker room with everyone staring at them. They don't want to use the bathroom and somehow flash their crotch at everyone, which is hard to do in a bathroom with stalls. They still don't want everyone staring at them while they change clothes for gym.
No one does. I don't think anyone wants that.
Very few.
Yeah, if you're an exhibitionist. I don't know
why we do that to people anyway. You know, kids in high school and middle school dressing out for gym is usually just such a painful time. Everyone's bodies are changing, and kids are so vicious at that age. I never took a shower in a locker room.
I never once took a shower in a locker room.
I never did either.
I'm a prude. I know I am, but I was very uncomfortable. I didn't have a lot of body confidence. I still to this day don't have body confidence. And which is okay. I think that's part of it's part of it, right? But the thing is, like, it's just the reason I like you coming on the show and talking is because I know you're talking to an audience of people that are not familiar with your world, and probably in your world it's very like close. What's the percentage of the nation that's transgender in some way or another? I'm just curious.
That is a really hard number to nail down. I know that the estimate is that there are 700,000 transgender Americans, but it's not something that is like very easy to ask on a survey because a lot of people, especially if they've completely transitioned from one, legally and physically from one gender to the other, then they no longer consider themselves transgender. So it's hard to, go out and get the numbers. Not to mention so many people don't want to admit it because just the harassment, the beatings, the sexual assaults, the murders. We actually had a very sad statistic. Austin had the dubious distinction of having the first transgender murder of the year.
Jesus.
So there's a lot of risks involved. They're disproportionately transgender women of color who were murdered, but everyone is at risk. And actually, trans guys, people do tend to target trans women more, but actually trans guys are targeted for a lot of violence as well. And as these sort of things become like a national flashpoint, you get all these arch conservatives who are really hopped up about, transgender people using the bathrooms or even existing or whatever. It really sparks violent incidents. And so while I do see what's happening, in the big picture, it's positive because transgender people are winning like literally almost every single court battle. All of them. The only ones that we don't win, it's like the very first local level where, there's elected officials who want to vote the way the local population feels. But the second it gets into a real court, transgender people win every battle, every time. And I'm glad, and I feel like we're absolutely going to gain our rights. But I know people are dying because of this, both through suicide and murder, and actually not being able to access proper health care. There's huge discrimination against transgender people just for seeing someone for a head cold. It's insane. That's sort of like its own thing. And actually, if people are really interested, there is an amazing survey study actually called Discrimination at Every Turn, which was done about a year or so ago, and it has all of the hard numbers on what percentage of people have experienced, job discrimination, violence, and that sort of thing. And
so let me ask you this question. We'll try to put I want to try to put a positive bow on this because I really do appreciate you taking the time to break down. That was what I always think it's important. It was one of the things I remember growing up. You always say you never walk a mile in someone else's shoes, right? Before you have an opinion on something, ask somebody who's from a different community that you are.
Absolutely.
And I am a big believer. I'm kind of a hippie. I'm kind of a utopian. I tend to be a politically incorrect guy, but I like to, just because I like humor. But the thing is, I love this idea that everybody, the thing I liked about the melting pot in the United States and things I learned about it, everybody can be different, but we can all appreciate everybody's differences. And we can, if you and I disagreed about something, that's okay. I'm not going to hate you. You're not going to hate me.
Right.
But let's just try to understand where the other person's coming from. And in this world that we live in, where I see this shit with the bathroom laws, and in this election season where I feel like everybody's mad at everyone, is there a way that, say, the transgender community and the community, the broader, the Facebook moms cutting their fucking cards up, or against Target? So it's always is there a way for the two communities to just understand each other and stop fucking hating on each other and just say, let's appreciate our differences. Let's come together. Let's let everyone be proud of themselves and stop. I don't know. It just bugs me that we always seem to be, we lean towards, maybe it's humans, maybe it's biology. We lean towards divide and conquer.
Well,
is there hope? Is there hope? That's all I'm saying.
There absolutely is hope. Like I said, certainly just in terms of this particular issue, I feel like it's already, in the future, transgender rights are already won, and it's just a matter of getting to it. But also, when you look at the surveys for, the younger generation is so many light years ahead of everyone else in terms of acceptance and tolerance of, on everything, just like across the board, racial and gender. And I forget, there was a study that came out just recently, in the last month, and I don't think I can remember what the exact number was, but it was something like over half of I'm trying to think, high school and college age kids knew someone who used the pronoun. For people at home who don't know, a lot of transgender people prefer to use the plural pronoun of they rather than he or she. And there are also some alternative pronouns such as the instead of he or she. And according to the survey, more than half of high school and college students knew someone who identified by those pronouns. And when you consider that, it's such a tiny, low single-digit percentage of, older adults who know anyone who's transgender or anywhere on the transgender spectrum, that was, and it was a very positive thing because the same group, because they knew that person had far more accepting attitudes to exactly what you're saying, just live and let live.
Live and let live. It's weird. I was raised in a very conservative, it's only like 1% of all the Christian churches in America. They're called the Church of Christ now, but
I know them.
Okay. They were called the Campbellites. Like they erased the name Campbellites, but that's what they were called, like the Mennonites or any of that, but the Church of Christ. And that's how I was raised. But there are certain things I remembered, like from the Bible, like Jesus said, and they're the Jesus things that stuck with me. Things like, don't worry about the speck of dust in another guy's eye when there's a log in your own, or
right.
Even like turn the other cheek. I mean, it's a very, like there's especially in the New Testament, it seems to me it's got a very inclusive message of, hey, don't judge the other guy when you need to worry about your own shit. Like that's the message of the New Testament. And I think if we took that, there's something to be said for that, I think.
I might add, when we were speaking at the Drag Fest last year, I was totally moved. I just, you never know what you're going to get when you're transgender, and you're talking about being transgender with a person who's pretty far removed from the queer community. Like, you just don't know what the viewpoint's going to be. And the reason I was so willing and just eager to hop on the phone and do this podcast with you today was that I thought you were just, both you and Serial were both just such really nice, awesome people who actually, I think you are a little more informed than you give yourself credit for being, but certainly just your perspective of live and let live it was really nice, and it was very friendly, and I really enjoyed talking to you. Well,
we love talking to you. I'm going to show you I'm a conspiracy theorist with my one quick thing on Austin, and then I'll let you promote your stuff and we'll wrap it up because I went way longer with you than I said. I hope I didn't take up your whole night. But,
no, I've been enjoying the conversation very much.
All right, so Austin, this is where I go conspiracy land, okay? In Austin, they outlawed the plastic bags that you get at the grocery store. Okay.
Well, sort of. The way it works is takeout food still comes in a plastic bag, and dry cleaning still has the bag, but otherwise you have to pay 25 cents for a thicker reusable bag if you want one.
Okay, so here's where I go conspiracy land. I think, honestly, printing those bags are provided for free from whatever company provides them. So the store can be like, hey, instead of providing bags for free to people that cost us money, let's act like it's for the environment. Then let's sell the people a fucking bag for 10 times what it costs to make a plastic bag. And to me, I just see corporate shit everywhere I go, and I go, that's a fucking conspiracy. And maybe I'm wrong, but it seems really convenient to go, it's for the environment. By the way, if you want to take your can of beans home, please buy a $25 bag.
Right. I think there's certainly an element to that. That was not lost on a lot of people, that suddenly you're having to pay 25 cents. But that said, it is awesome how few plastic bags we have floating around. I mean, I think in most places that use the free bags, they are everywhere. They just float around. They get caught in trees. They clog up the creeks and the sewage system.
I get it, but also, I wouldn't know. I have cats. Do you have cats? Have you ever had cats?
No.
Okay, well, I don't know where I would put my cat shit.
Kitty litter. It's funny because I hoard all of my plastic bags. So anytime I get takeout food, because I still need them because I don't have cats, but I ride a bike. And it rains and you want something to put over your bike seat so your butt doesn't get wet. So I save them up. Oh, and I also use them to line the trash in my bathroom trash can. So no, I agree. There's still there's legitimate uses for them, but there's still enough of them out there. Various miscellaneous things come in them.
Maybe I should take my tinfoil hat off. I don't know. Maybe I should.
I don't know.
All right, so I want you to promote everything. You got a cool Tumblr page you were telling me about, so tell everybody where they can find out more.
Okay, so what the deal is that I have a page that showcases basically historic erotic art and historic non-gender conforming art from around the world, and that it goes back thousands of years. I think actually the the oldest I have on there is like 32,000 years old, and basically the premise of the page, and just to give your audiences, it also includes male-female erotic art. It's really an even focus on all orientations. Gay, straight, lesbian is pretty evenly covered, and then whenever possible, bisexual. I define bisexual erotic art as when someone is literally having sex with two people of two different genders at the same time. There's also transgender erotic and non-erotic art, in that there are classical depictions of transgender people, some in non-sexual situations, and then others in sexual situations. And if I guess basically the thesis statement of my project is that erotic censorship absolutely harms all people, but it especially harms queer people because it erases us from history. I mean, if you see two people in a painting, how do you know they're gay? Well, if they're having sex, you know they're gay, you know? So what I do is I find these images and I fully research them and I post them with complete art history notes on them, and usually citations and references and links to further reading if anyone's interested. Now, if they want to check this out, the URL is historic-erotic-art.tumblr.com. But for people who don't have a Tumblr account, which, just to clarify, you don't need a Tumblr account to view the art there, but if you want to get it in your daily feed and you don't have a Tumblr account, I also cross-post it on my Facebook page. So if people would like to check that out, the name of the Facebook page, it's a little long, but it's Sweet Gwendolyn /Debbie Penetration. And all you have to do is just hit the like button, and you'll start seeing the art in your feed. And you can certainly scroll through and see if you like it before you sign up.
And I'll put a couple links on our website, exploded.com, when we put this episode out there, which should be within about 24 hours of recording it. So if you go to exploded.com when you hear this, you should be able to find the show notes, link over to those Tumblr page, the Facebook page. Check that out. There's so many people I talk to. I talked to a lot of people. I did, for over 3 years now, I've been doing a podcast where I interviewed a guest a week. We've done live events. We've gone to a lot of places. I never forget interesting, memorable, unique people. And no, seriously. And you are one of the ones that the minute you messaged me on Facebook after that, and I said, I'm going to remember, and I don't know whether to call you Debbie or Gwendolyn. What do your friends call you? Gwendolyn is okay?
My friends all call me Gwendolyn. I mean, okay. Gwendolyn is my given name, and Debbie Penetration is, honestly, unless you were an MC introducing me just before I step out on stage at a drag show, just call me Gwendolyn. So,
Gwendolyn, you are by far one of the coolest people that I've met across my travails of life. And anytime that there's something where I go like, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about when it comes to trans issues, and not even just that, you got a lot of opinions on a lot of shit. So,
and I love to talk about them.
I know. So anytime I need a guest to talk about some shit, I'll probably shoot you a little message.
Please do. I have enjoyed this completely, and I just want to say again, you and your co-host made such a really positive impression on me. And also, actually, I can tell you one of the things that stuck out to me, although honestly your personalities and just the content of what you were saying was great. But I remember at the time when you did it again on this show, you referred to yourself as a cisgender straight white guy or something. And for people at home who actually don't necessarily know the term, cisgender just means you're not transgender, and it's I believe, Latin root word where cis is the opposite of trans. But obviously, because you guys are the overwhelming majority, most cisgender people do not practice, introducing themselves by saying I'm cisgender. But it's just the people who do that, such as yourself, tend to be just, I don't know, extra thoughtful, extra enlightened. It's sort of just acknowledging that you guys are not, the universal norm, that there are people outside of your own experience.
Well, and that's what makes people and life worth living, is unique out of if everybody was the fucking same, what's the point? Okay? So anyway, thank you so much. You're awesome. I appreciate it. This has been the Exploded Mini Show. Until next time, I'm JC King saying cheers, pro slancha, and salute. See you next time on the Exploded Show.
This has been an Exploded production. For more where that came from, go to exploded.com.